Hello and welcome to Mastermind. Our mission is to build million-dollar businesses so that we can have financial freedom, time for our families, and make an impact in our communities. Let's kick it off with some big wins. Craig, lead the way, please.
I guess not yet to be a big win, but in my networking group this week, I've got a joint presentation with the interior designer, and we're going to talk about color psychology. So hopefully we'll get some good content off that and maybe something for a community spotlight later on.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, right on.
Yeah.
Color psychology. That's it. Do me a favor, Esker, which brilliant designer got everybody to promote gray?
Yeah, gray seems to be coming to its end.
Good.
Thankfully.
Hell yeah. Finally.
I'm painting 2 houses right now with gray.
Yeah. No, this is good news. If gray's coming to its end, guess what? They're gonna be calling you in a couple
Yeah.
years saying, hey, look, I need to go to taupe or whatever's cool now.
Yeah.
So,
Taupe was it for so long. Oh my.
yeah, it was.
I'm
It was.
still tired of taupe.
Just as long as they kick Chantilly lace to the curb, I'm good.
Oh man, the yellow in Chantilly lace kills me. With coverage, forget it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Isaac, big wins, buddy.
Yeah, I would have to say my team is just doing great. Just off of the holiday weekend, we started a new project and they're hitting the ground running. And it seems like my crew leader is just like really in it, dialed in. And I can just really, it's seriously just amazing to be able to now have a solid crew and be able to just go, okay, now I can focus on what I need to do and just know the customers are getting taken care of. And I just continue to get more and more feedback on how great they're doing when I go to close out a job. So yeah, definitely my crew would be my big win.
Yeah.
Awesome. Isaac, way to lead. Way to hire for character too. So
Yeah, thank
fantastic.
you.
Absolutely. Daryl, big wins.
Yeah. Yeah, I follow along with that with Isaac. I was thinking just this morning how good things are going. It's you got to keep pursuing your team like you do your wife. I've said that numerous times on here, but things are going really. The new guy that I hired a couple months ago, Rex, I've already bumped him up $2 an hour on last paycheck. And then I got a call from an employee that he used to work with at his old crew where Rex had left from because he didn't like the environment. And that guy's like, I had to quit my job. It was so bad here. He goes, I want to work for an A team. You guys are great. And he wants to come on board, but I've got to talk with my other guy and make sure that this guy is not part, at least a small part of the reason why he left, because I don't want to have any bad culture coming into our team. So, but it sounds like he's not part of the problem. So it may be cool, but I'll interview my newer guy and make sure that he wants him on because I will not hire anybody my team doesn't want. So that's pretty cool.
This is awesome.
My
Go ahead.
next thing, I'm sorry, Will, we're starting the 5 levels of leadership, I think next week to get him going in leadership. So yeah, very good. So it's been going really
Fantastic. So we're on the theme of culture, I'll just throw in my story and I've shared it before. We had one of our leads, his friend offered him a job, paying him $5 more an hour. And it was on good terms. He didn't want to go, but the money back then, this was 15 years ago. That's when $5 was a lot, you know? And so he gave a notice and he left. But after 6 months, he called back and said, hey guys, I really missed the team and I missed the camaraderie. What he meant was culture. And what he found was that culture was more valuable than he was an extra $5 an hour. And so he came back for culture. So good job, guys, on the culture. It's everything. Yeah, keep that going. Sonia, good morning. Big wins.
I'm here.
Yay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. We're glad you made it. Very good. Thank you. All right. Craig, what is the one thing that we could brainstorm such that might make everything else easier and or unnecessary?
I don't know, much the same as some of the previous weeks. I'm still struggling with bookings, which is one of the reasons why I implemented the community spotlight so I can get more content, so that I can drive a little bit more engagement on social media. So I have been getting leads in, and I have booked some stuff for January, which is good, but I'm still needing to fill my December in. December has a few jobs, but certainly not enough. And yeah, so there's that. And also 2 of my best employees, one is gone for the month of December and one is gone for the month of December and January. Yeah, they're taking extended vacations. So that leaves me with both the newest guy, and one who I have to check up a little bit in terms of quality. Still like a good guy, but just is at one of his job sites and just had to straighten out some of his cut lines and whatnot type thing.
Okay. All right. Some more work, right? Instant leads. Man,
Yes.
that book would be like a bestseller. Instant leads. Bam. Yeah. All right. So the number one is always the customer, or open opportunities, right? Is always number one. How many open estimates do we have now?
Yep.
You've been here, you've been wrong. I'm sure you've gone through that one. Okay,
Yeah,
but I'm just going through the process. I'm sure you've crushed that one. Second one is customer list. That's your second most valuable instant lead source is customer list. And so what that means is staying top of mind. The fastest way there, obviously, you want to send them GIE emails, send out cards, connect to them on social. But then the biggest opportunity here in these situations are just phone calls. Go through them all and call them, but call them as a friend. Call them with relationships in mind, not business. They already know who you are. They already know what you do. Just call them with as a relationship in mind. And so you just go through the list, start with your best customers and work your way down. And you just say, hey, Daryl, Steve, Burnett, just calling to see how you're doing. How's that neighbor's pesky dog? How's your kid? How's your boy doing in college? Did he make the football team? And just let the conversation take its natural course. No expectations, okay? And just call one after another and watch what happens.
Yep. I can double down on the phone calls.
There you go. Yep. So kick that up. And then let's Daryl and Isaac and Sonia. What else would you encourage Craig to do?
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of what you need to even call. Did you go through? We talked a few weeks ago about your texting. If you're going to be calling your clients, and texting wouldn't matter. But what I did last winter or winter before last, I went through my iPhone. I scrolled all the way down. It was like 2 years ago, and I went to those clients and just texted them. Did exactly what Steve did, only in a text. And I got a couple of jobs off of that. And what's really cool is I'm doing a job in a few weeks from one of those ladies, from her a person who's buying her house. And then now this lady that I reached out to 2 years ago to do another job for, she's moving into another house, so I might be doing some painting for her. And so that was all from scrolling in a text message year before last. So I'm still benefiting from texting clients 2 years ago. So that's pretty cool.
I actually, yeah, that brings to mind a story. So I was calling around for my annual touch-ups, and one of the ladies had actually moved. So I don't even live in the house anymore. I'm like, the new people that live in, I could do touch-ups for them. Can you put me in contact with them? So she put me in contact with the people that bought her house, and I did touch-ups for them, and then subsequently they became one of my customers after that.
That's beautiful. I love that. Great execution. Well done.
Yeah.
Have you sent your community spotlights to any of your email list?
Yeah, I haven't wanted to bombard them because I've got 4 in the hopper, so I'm spacing them out. So I did the first one. I'll probably drop the second one sometime this month, and then just spacing them out just so I'm not emailing people every 5 days.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's great because I've got a couple of emails planned, and I just need to hit the send button on them. So that's
right on. It's awesome that Daryl's texting, reaching out, keep in touch. I do recommend phone calls. Okay, texting's better than nothing. So I'm not criticizing texting. Texting's better than nothing. That's awesome, and it's working. Phone calls are a little more effective. You can hear their tone, you can engage, and they can feel that your purpose for calling is to genuinely check up on them first.
Yeah, and I think at this point it would be good because it's heading into the holiday season, and it's just a natural. Hope you're going to have a good holiday, especially because our postal service up here is on strike. And,
oh no, really?
Yeah. So Christmas cards might be like Valentine's Day cards at this point.
Craig, you feel like you're good there? Do you have enough to go on?
I think so. I think I just need to, it's obvious that the next step is to pick up the phone. I've done the rest of this stuff. I've done the groundwork.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, Daryl, you're up.
So going back to my guy Will, we're starting the 5 levels of leadership next week. The reason why I didn't want to do it before Thanksgiving because I want some time to think, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out the best way. And I think I know, but wanted some feedback from maybe you. That is an amazing book. I've went over it 2 or 3 times in the last years. But my thinking is to give Will like every week or maybe even maybe bi-weekly, just to give time to really chew on the chapters. But my thinking was to give him the book, go through the first chapter, and then we're going to meet for lunch and then for an hour and discuss it, and then pay for his lunch, pay for his time, and then also give him $100 every time he finishes a chapter. And Will is not somebody who needs to have extra money from me. That's not at all, but he has a ton of respect for me. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, reading this book, I know it's making him a better person and a leader, which is helping him out, but it's also helping the business out. So I want to know what you thought, Steve, on the business end of it, as far as, because I like to give him $100 every time we meet when reading the chapter and make him excited about it.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to go too far on that end. But Will's not somebody who's always got his hand out expecting bonuses and stuff. He's not
Mm-hmm.
like that at all. But I
So,
also want to value his time.
yeah, this is great. A couple thoughts. One, I really like this. Two, I would make it weekly. If you go 2 weeks and he reads it and then he waits 2 weeks, if he doesn't write it down or summarize his insights, which most people don't, he's likely to forget most of what he learned. So I would make it weekly, and I would stick with crispy 50s.
Okay.
My experience is it's the same emotional impact as 100.
Okay.
But again, go to the bank and get some crispies.
Yes, I will. I
Right?
will do that. It's going to be a lot different than other leaderships that we've had, other team leads, because most of them they've known how to do their job, they know how to run the job or whatever. Just let them do the thing. We've talked about it, but this time I want to implement what does a leader look like? Because I don't know
Hmm.
if you guys have not read 5 levels of leadership. It'll totally change your attitude on leadership.
Yeah, who's read it? Raise hands. Yeah, right on.
It's
Yeah, I'm
really
almost
good.
all the way through it.
But
Yeah.
it's one thing for us to read it, but it's another to get your team lead to read it so they can really own on there. And Isaac, sounds like you've got an amazing culture. I would recommend going through that with your team. Not that I know what that looks like at the moment, but I think it's going to be an amazing thing how it's
Yeah,
going to
you
be.
get your team to lead it, that puts you at a level 4.
Yeah.
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 Pretty cool. Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love it. One of my favorite leadership books. In fact, it's John Maxwell's written over 80 books, and that one's my favorite by far, hands down. Yeah, it's a field guide. It's a field guide for leadership. It's not even a book. It's a field guide, step by step, habits, behaviors for each level. Yeah, that's a great idea, Daryl. Any other thoughts for Daryl, guys? Guys and gals, peeps?
Yeah.
So are
I
you
think that's
pulling them
great.
off the job site for all those lunches?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's going to be 1 hour and it's going to be time well invested, I believe. The other thing with Will, he's really good at organizing and getting things done. I've actually stepped back a lot on my things. Like we've got a $28,000 exterior that we're starting tomorrow, and Will pulled off the job yesterday to go meet with the client to make sure we've got the right color, make sure confirm he wants to use satin paint, figure out where we're going to park our trailer, and so Will did all of that. And so for me to pull him off for another hour for lunch, yeah, I'm paying for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay,
Anyway,
fantastic.
yeah.
Right on. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes in the developments there. Thank you, Daryl. Isaac.
Yeah, just wondered your guys' thoughts on tactics to get finances a little bit more dialed in. And I'm finally getting my profit margins in a better spot. I went through after job costing and yeah, I realized that my production rates was just not quite right. And so when I was chatting with you guys, after that, I adjusted some things and things are going a little bit better there. But looking at the accounts, it's just, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to have more control on seeing exactly what's going on. And maybe the simple answer is just that I need to get the bookkeeper in place and just have everything gone through line item by line item. But I don't know, it's just surprising that we're doing like 58 to 60% gross margins and it's still like in between jobs having to like do last minute transfers to make sure that everything can go through. It's what the heck, we're making money, what's going on here? So yeah, is there anything I'm missing that you guys are just like, here's the main two things that I always focus on to make sure finances are in order? Are you doing those? Like, does anything come to mind there?
So, okay, you pull out your P&L, and whether it's year to date or the last month, it's good to look at both. And then you just start with the high-end benchmarks, right? There's revenue, cost of goods sold, materials. Those are your direct expenses together, right? The balance leaves your gross profit, then your expenses, then your net operating profit. And you make sure all of those are within your benchmarks. Whichever ones are not within the benchmarks, then you take time to zoom in on that area. If materials beyond 18%, for example, if your gross profits vary from business to business, but ideally it's 50%. Some of their goals only 45, but whatever you set your goal to be, as long as it's within there, it's good. Just let it ride, because it's not. We can chase needles in haystacks or whatnot, but sometimes it's just not profitable or effective for us to dig down on little things. And so we don't want to spend too much time going over all the numbers. So just look at the high-end benchmarks, and then whichever ones are out of line, zoom in on that area and try to figure out what's going on. It's usually, usually it's the labor that's out of line. Usually materials good, usually expenses are low, but if one of them's out of line, it's usually labor. And then if it's labor, it's one of two things: culture, accountability, and production rates. Accountability meaning we're not holding them accountable to show up on time, to execute, to finish jobs on time, and or culture's not there. I know that's not an issue for you. Culture's strong for you. But a lot of times, speaking of 5 levels of leadership, we get stuck at level 2 leadership. Pop quiz. What's level 2? My 5 levels of leadership graduates.
Visible.
Yeah, so is that where like they like you and everything is good, except maybe they're not like fearful of you?
Yeah. Yep. And most owners, it's so common. Most owners get stuck there because we like being liked, right? Who likes being liked? We all like being liked. Yeah. And so the last thing we want to do is not be liked. And so we struggle to get them to produce profitably because we don't want them to be mad at us. We want to not be liked. And we like having them and feeling friendly and whatnot. But that, in fact, is what level 3 is: becoming a production leader. And that is where they not just like you, but they respect you and produce for you. So if the issue is that the production rates aren't where they need to be, go back and review level 3 to find the behaviors and beliefs, right? The beliefs and the behaviors to own level 3 so that we can get them to, it's good that they like us. That's step 2. But then, or level 2, then level 3 is where they produce. That's level 3. So what are the behaviors and beliefs to help get us there? And then once you get cranking, level 4 is you start creating leaders, right? From there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I think I just jumping back to the financial part of it. I think unfamiliar enough with the QuickBooks and P&L and all that. Would you say that rather than me spend the time to like really figure out exactly how to work with all those documents and get all that, that I just need to hire the bookkeeper and go through all that with them? Yeah.
Yeah. I believe everybody should hire a bookkeeper. It's not worth our time. You should be able to get a bookkeeper for $300 a month. And all you want to do is be able to pull P&Ls. Say, listen, I need you to make sure everything is connected, updated, reconciled, so that I can pull P&Ls and occasionally balance sheet and just scan through it 15 minutes a week, and you know exactly where you're at.
As far as like just adding cost after cost onto your like monthly statement of things that, whether it's send out cards, bookkeeper, like just all the different expenses start stacking up. Like what's a good benchmark for percentage for overhead? Is that 10%, 15%?
Which part? So
Like
expenses need to be, this falls under expenses. Expenses should remain under 30% total. So as long as
under
your total
what?
expenses are under 30% overhead, as long as your overhead, your fixed cost
Yeah,
remain under 30%, you should be fine.
under 30.
Yeah, I imagine you're running pretty lean. That should not be an issue for you.
Yeah.
And bookkeeping is an easy one. And so it's what's the percent that varies. So another way to look at it is what's your hourly responsibility value, right? How many hours would it take you to reconcile these books, and how much do you hate it? Now, one time I was running an executive office, and I was in the conference room, and I hated doing the books. I hate it because I knew I should be out there selling and networking. And that's what I want to do, closing business, not necessarily QuickBooks. So in order to get myself to do it, because I didn't have a bookkeeper at the time, I would put myself in the conference room, and I was the only person in the whole office. And I would get my laptop in there, and I would have to turn off all the lights and leave my phone in the other room, so there were no distractions, so that I could focus and get it done. And my landlord came in, real nice guy, and he came in and he looked in there, and it was just me in the dark with a laptop. He's like, "Steve, what are you doing?" I'm like, showing him. I said, "Look, hold on, it's QuickBooks, okay?" I said, "Let me explain." It didn't look right, and he laughed. He goes, "Oh my goodness!" He goes, "You need the lights off for QuickBooks?" I said, "I hate doing the books, man. And I need to get rid of every distraction I can to force myself to do it, because I hated doing them that much." And so, yes, but your hourly responsibility value is it's worth it. $300, hire it out, and just look at the reports, because you can spend, all you have to do is line up one more job, and it pays for it. It's an easy expense to justify, especially as much as we generally hate doing the books. So yeah,
And
absolutely.
Weak word.
Didn't really should they
Pardon me,
just
Daryl?
Oh, I
Oh.
said generally is a very weak word in my hate.
We hate doing the books. Oh my goodness.
generally what should they be producing for you every month or every week? Is it just that P&L document?
So they should have your QuickBooks reconciled monthly, and you should be able to pull a P&L by, like for my CPA, I just asked that we had it by the 15th of the following month. And she had it anywhere between the 5th and the 10th usually.
Yeah. And the P&L just helps you to see where you're at as far as profits and losses of just, okay, here's how much we made, how much is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I think
P&L is everything. Those are your financials. There's that in the
Yeah.
balance sheet, which shows your assets and your liabilities, which you don't need to pull as often. But the P&L, you do need to look at that on a monthly basis. So say on the 15th of every month, as long as the bookkeeper has everything reconciled by the end of the month, or after the end of the month, to close it out so that you can pull a P&L. 15th at the latest. They can get it by the 10th. That'd be great.
Okay. One other just tiny little thing, Daryl, with you doing this so long, and I'm wondering, when you go to the big box store and get some supplies and stuff, like how are you categorizing that per job so that you know that your materials is still under 10 or 12%? Like how are you splitting that up so that you can see where you're at financially as far as when you're getting a good amount of materials that aren't just like paint for that job?
That's actually a pretty good question. Steve's talked about this too, but I don't nickel and dime the sundry items. I do buy those in bulk, but masking tape, paper, I don't even worry about that cost as far as how many rolls of tape that I use on this job. You will waste more money than it's worth figuring that out.
Mhm.
I want to know about my gallons of paint just so I know I'm estimating properly, not wasting money on paint. But the sundry items, that's a given on every one of my jobs. I mean, I'm looking at 5% or 3%, whatever. That's just what
Even with your rolls of tape being $7 a pop,
do I now?
rolls of blue tape are like $7 a piece right
Yes,
now.
Yep,
Crazy.
they are. But if you're buying in bulk and you're trying to tell your guys, let's separate this job from that, your team is taking that extra 30 minutes a day, organizing all the sundry items from this job to that job. It's not the sundry items. I'm not itemize my sundry items. It's just
Yeah.
not worth it at all. Steve sounds like he's agreeing there.
100%.
The
It's not worth
actual
it. It's like 1%, maybe one and a half.
the actual paint itself, when you're at the paint store, they can tag it to a job so
Yeah.
that it becomes searchable by job, so you know how much paint you've used on a particular project. And
Oh.
usually I'll put some sundry items on those bills as well, so that I can track as much as possible. But yeah, there's just those sundry items that you buy in bulk that just tag to sundries.
Yeah. Okay. No, good stuff. Super helpful, guys. I appreciate it.
And you can even tag them in HubDoc if you're using like a software to take pictures of your receipts, you can tag them in that software as well.
Okay.
So
All
just
right. Sonia, nice DYB mug. 5 cool points for you this morning.
Thank you. I feel like I've fallen, like I mentioned, I'm just happy I'm here. I guess a big win
And
was
so are we.
Yes.
Yeah.
thank you. I'm under the weather and I couldn't sleep anyway, so I was like, let's get on there. I guess a win I did have was I got a treadmill, those little walking pads that can run up to 8. So at least I'm doing something and I'm not worried about, yeah. And I like to
There
do.
you go.
So that's good. I have my pull-up bar still. I at least got the bend and I'm like right here
Yeah.
hanging. I go this way and this way. So that's that. So those are wins. As far as the feels, I have fallen off the wagon. I just feel like I wanted to throw in the towel. My feels are still all over the place. And I know a lot of it has to do with like I hear the culture and I hear this, and we still use contractors. And so I haven't gotten myself to where I've leaned in and sold. I'm not consistent. And I get frustrated with myself on that because just my mindset, my field, I see mindset. I'm looking at all your like, what books does he have there? And I just get the 5 leadership ones. I know. I'm like, oh, but I have the book, the one you showed earlier with the 5 levels of leadership.
Mhm.
So I have that, but literally I'm just dry right now. And it's more, I feel like I know I'm purposely doing it because I don't want the issues. I'm just like, I ran into that GC. He's still a pain in my side, but I'm trying to just keep going. And I have gotten work for my BNI, which is nice, but I'm not making any extra efforts to find anything else and just waiting for stuff to come to me. And then I'm taking forever on my estimates. Like I was doing them on the spot and I'm not doing them anymore. I'm just like a week later, a couple of days later. It's not, I am in a funk, like a
Yeah.
heavy.
Okay.
So like I said, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I came because I was, yeah, drifting off.
I got another book for you. Oh, here it is. And you only need to read the first like 3 or 4 chapters. That's all. It's awesome. Mm-hmm.
Jeff hating the motivation.
Or Jeff Hayden. Yep. Yep. The motivation myth.
No,
Hey, Sonia, I have a question. Just it's not a criticism at all. It's just curiosity because it's I'm not a big proponent of contractor or I'm sorry, subcontractors versus employee. I don't have a preference as far as what other people should do, but it sounds like the 2 problems that I hear or the 2 concerns that I hear from you quite often is the contractors, which you want to divorce, but also having some issues with the subcontractors. And so now you're hating life a little bit. Have you thought about maybe switching to an employee model? Not saying it's what you need to do, but have you thought about that?
I really have. And I'm thinking, I guess because I'm afraid of not being able to consistently provide for them or have work.
That'll push you. That'll push you to make you better. It
Yeah.
really will. And the only reason I bring that up is because you're hating life right now. Hating's a strong word, but you're not
I
liking
know.
life right now. But if you're still doing the subcontractor model and you're still working for the contractors, then we've got to change something because we all know the definition of insanity, you know. So if we
Yeah.
keep doing the same thing, we're not going to get any better in our head. So maybe looking into the employee model might be it. I'm not saying that it is it, but for you, it might be. That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Because it is challenging
It
to
is.
have because they're their own. I even have a colleague that has both, but it has its pros and cons for either way. But it's definitely quality control is very, very difficult to. The promises that I speak about when I sell it don't match up.
Sonia, I run both, right? I've done both. Right now I'm small and I understand I'm in a bit of a funk myself.
Oh no, you froze. No.
Yeah, we freeze him.
He is frozen.
Bryce froze.
Just mid-sentence right there.
Yeah.
He was
Darn.
about to bestow pearls of wisdom. And
The ultimate cliffhanger.
Yeah. But I would at least do some research on the employee because that might be what you need to change. That'll help you with your headspace going
Yeah,
into the
and
employee model.
scheduling and having to call them and say, okay, what's the schedule like? There's so many things in there that,
Yeah.
yeah, and you could always just start with one employee crew type thing, and then just give it to the jobs that you need to knock out of the park.
Because right now you don't really have much accountability. from what you're saying. Because if you don't work next week, it's no big deal. You don't have an employee to take care of. But if you have an employee to take care of, you will hustle. Believe me.
Yeah, that's hugely motivating because I'll do more to book work for my crew than I will to book work for myself.
Yeah.
So there's this really good podcast on how to stay productive in tough times. And it's really all about the strategies that we use to get out of a funk. It's episode 78. What's it called? Oh, the DYB Podcast. That's what it was. Yeah.
Is that the one that you put the link in? Or
Yeah, that's the blog article with it. And you can listen to it on the blog article.
Okay.
And there's some quotes in there. That is the link. But it's episode 78 on your FM dial. Your favorite podcast app. Pardon me, Daryl?
Said FM is going away.
Hey,
The
can
FM
y'all
is
hear me?
going away.
Yes.
Yes, Bryce.
Okay. Mind if I continue for 2 seconds?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. Sonia, I do both, but I have a team of some contractors that I can call, and then I currently operate like on the ladder a lot, which I know is not ideal, but and there have been times where I've had employees and I'm not on the ladder at all. And one of the reasons that I really like it is because I can offer kind of two separate tiers of service, right? I have my subcontractors for the clients that call and basically, hey, we're selling this house. It needs to be done pretty quickly and we need to have it at a reasonable amount of money, but it needs to be a competitive bid. And they just want in and out. And it's really not like a labor of love for them, right? But then I have other clients where I can say, hey, my A team, what we do is we do the highest tier quality work. And I'm very upfront and I'm very honest with them. And I say, hey, not going to bust through this in 2 days. We're going to take our time. We're going to make sure everything's correct. We're going to use all of the top tier processes and product, all that sort of good stuff. And so when we do those types of projects, I end up having a whole lot more in my heart. I know for a fact, even if the job is frustrating, because it's a frustrating industry, that I know that it's a labor of love. And I save our A-team services for people where it's like they love their home, they plan to keep their home, and they're looking to be wowed. And that really helps. And when you're setting your expectations, that's one thing that I had to get away from is over-promising. I try really hard not to overpromise. I try to be very upfront, okay? Especially if the project is complicated. And typically what I find is that I end up upselling like crazy on those jobs. They see what we're doing, they start seeing results, and they're like, oh my gosh. They're like, can you do this too? 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 And like, I've got a project we started. When you first got started, it was like a $6,200 project. Now we're almost at $11,000. The job almost doubled. And it works out because I told the client up front, hey, we're not going to blow through this. It's much more, hey, a service professional is going to be here at 9. He will work until 5:30. He will leave at 5:30. It could take from this many days to this many days. If you add on work, schedule completely gets thrown out. And at that point in time, we're here to accomplish it and doing daily check-ins and all that good stuff. And then I know for you, I'm not there yet, but I know for you, think about how much fun you would have with your design mind and creativity if all of a sudden you can now like design like uniforms and like eventually have a work vehicle and you can get really tight with your branding. And all of a sudden you've got a product and a set of processes that you can be really proud of. And it's instead of being like, oh, we have a great crew, they're great. I'm like, oh, they're really quick. They do great work and they're in and out and all that sort of good stuff. I feel like you would do really well if you had both, because then on the projects that you're not very excited about, your subcontracting crew can go bang that out. If it's not like a retail client, like we got a project right now where we're painting a house where the guy who owns the house doesn't even live there. It's an investment property. He really doesn't care if we show up in our sparkly whites, or if a crew comes out and bangs it out in 2 or 3 days, he'd probably prefer it to be banged out in 2 or 3 days. You know what I mean? So I can call myself, you guys go bang that out while we're working on our retail clients. And then just for me, personally, the really important thing that helped me get from A to B was co-employment. So like an ADP or like a company. And the reason that we had to do that was that allowed me to get workman's comp insurance that was reasonable, right? And then after several years, I didn't need them anymore. And now I get workman's comp rates that are very reasonable in-house. And I don't need to have that co-employment situation. Because if that's that for me, that was the one big sticky thing that I said, I can't have employees because I can't get the workman's comp coverage on them. That co-employment was the thing that got me from A to B.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce. Okay. Speaking of Bryce, you're up.
I've got a troublesome client who's he's a client. I can't fire him. We're almost done with this job. But he's just been one of those clients where everything is a complaint. And he's, oh, I don't want you here before noon. Okay. Yeah, because my wife sleeps until noon. Okay. And then we get there, we work, we're doing a lot of exterior stuff. It gets dark at 5:30 now. So we come in, we work, we do our thing. And then he's just working half days, being critical over something that he set in place. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we were supposed to go do a walkthrough on Saturday. And he said, but do it in the afternoon. Let's do it in the afternoon. I don't want to do it in the morning. So we set it for 2:00 in the afternoon. I show up and he's drunk, like really drunk.
Oh, wow.
And basically, you're going to have to leave. You got to get, I'm not ready for the walkthrough right now. I'm like, and he keeps adding stuff. And I get to the point where I'm like, hey, I'm trying to figure out the language to manage this guy. It's literally like yesterday we were there and 5:30 in the evening. He's like, hey, let's add another door. Let's do it. And I'm like, and I tried to say, hey, we have other jobs we need to get to, and we need to put a cap on where our scope creep is, all that sort of good stuff. And he got fussy about it, which is unreasonable. But I'm trying to figure out how to navigate the difficult client situation. Is he keeping me from awesome clients when we've got a bunch of great work coming up?
Ooh, hold on. He's keeping me from awesome clients. Is that
Yeah,
above or
answer
below
to
the
your own
line?
question.
I would say that's below the line.
Cool. How could we be above the line?
Maybe that's my question.
Okay. We could be above the line if we reframe it as I'm allowing him to keep me from better clients. Now you have the power to do something about it.
Okay.
But while you believe he's keeping you stuck, that's external.
Gotcha.
And maybe this is why we're stuck. But if you say, I'm allowing him to keep me from other clients, now we have the power to change it. See, it's these little things creep in here and there, and it's easy. It's easy enough to do. So one is there any money outstanding? Does he still owe you money?
Yeah, he does.
Okay, we just got to score up, have a crucial conversation with him. Say, I'm sorry, I have another client that I have to get to, and I have to honor that commitment. We need to score up where we're at. Let me go service these clients, and then we'll see about circling back to paint the one panel of your one door one day.
I already did it. I left at like 6:30 last night. I already did it. I took care of it. And now we're just like, he just keeps putting the walkthrough off, putting it off. And he's scaring me because he's one of those clients who are like, oh, we're gonna look at everything. And I know we did everything right. But
Yeah.
I don't like that warn you like a week in advance. Oh, we're really gonna walk it though.
Hey, I have a question, Bryce, just for the rest of us. When you interviewed this client and walked through with your proposal and everything, was there anything that you're looking back on that was a red flag that you probably shouldn't have been on that? I'm not saying there was, I'm just asking if there was.
The one was like he had 6 or 7 people look at the work and nobody had got back to him.
Okay.
That's one of them, but I put that more on them because a
Yeah.
lot of the job was there were just lots of bits and pieces
Mhm.
throughout the project. And so it was one of those where like we ended up with 30 line items and they're all like weird stuff. Paint the trim in the kitchen black, paint the exterior this, pair this, do this. And I have a bet and I need to get away from it big time. When I'm on site, I definitely expand the scope of what we're willing to do far beyond just painting. And like light repair is reasonable, but I definitely have gotten to the point where we're doing like practically like handyman stuff as well. And I'm waffling on this because in doing you end up with all of the tools necessary to do most of the small handyman stuff. And really, a lot of times, us as painters and finishers, a perfect position to do some of the final finish handyman stuff to some degree. But it's a bad habit and a bad model for me because it's nearly impossible to delegate a lot of that stuff to somebody who's been hired specifically as a painter. And I've considered potentially, do I find a handyman as like an outside contractor and have him do and close out projects and that sort of good stuff? Or do I hire a guy who explicitly has a lot of handyman skills? Because I do upcharge. Like we're at about $60 an hour for paint work. But as soon as we get into handyman work, I'm like $80 an hour plus materials, which is how I've justified doing it for myself. But then we've come to difficulty where, the difficulty of delegating that type of stuff. Not that it's impossible. It's not impossible to delegate it by any means, but it's definitely become a limiting factor.
Yeah, just reach out to him, and it sounds like we just need to be a little direct. Say, I really need to close this out. I've got guys to pay, we have families to feed, and can we meet Wednesday to do the final walkthrough, please? He jerks you around, let them know you'll need to lean them. Say, listen, my guys need to be paid. My paint store needs to be paid. My truck needs gas, and yeah, I'd like to eat too if there's some left at the end.
I'm wondering where you found this person, so that
he found me.
Oh no.
Luckily, we've done very well on our Google stuff. And in our area, our area is filled with lots of poor quality competition, which is awesome because then I'm getting a lot of calls and I am typically the one that people call when somebody else screwed the job up. But that also I definitely have noticed the better my internet presence in this market, I get more of the high-end clients that want to be fussy just because they enjoy being fussy. I'm not sure.
If there's something that you can do on the front end of your pre-qualifying process to like perhaps exterminate those people, that might be handy. That might be handy for implementing. And if you find something that works, share it with the rest of us.
One thing I've talked to Steve about this, and I really need to and want to do this. I want to have like a really long checklist of like they present to them at the estimate and say, because I've been running into this, like this whole summer was a nightmare with like where client expectations weren't realistic. We had a project summer where we painted the interior of this house and it looked amazing. And we used all of the most expensive products and we sprayed all the trim and we really went through and dialed it in. And the client gets there because the house was vacant. They had just purchased it and everything. I was like, how does it look? It looks great, but it doesn't feel smooth. Put your finger here. It just doesn't feel smooth. And it's, whoa, yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm sorry. And where was that? It was like, you didn't sand all the trim in the house? No. Where was that on the line item? And it was just like he expected us to sand all of the trim in the entire house before we painted it. And it was like, I'm sorry, that was not in the scope. You can't paint it, refinish it.
Yeah, to Craig's point, we need to improve our pre-qualifying process and be able to recognize these red flags. Cool. All right, fellers and lady, let's roll out with takeaways. Craig, lead the way, please.
I guess I'm getting on the phone and calling some people.
Awesome. Way to be. And then keep us posted. Let us know in the mastermind chat how that goes for you, please.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Daryl? And Daryl, you get multiple 5 cool points. You've got the system on the wall, dream big on the wall, and I'm sure above the line is on there, up there too, if I recall, of being there.
Yes, it's
over by the dartboard.
On that wall.
Okay, right on.
It's not too close to my dartboard because I'm not very good at darts.
You just try to aim above the line.
I'm gonna work with my guy Will and do the crispy 50s every week, and we're gonna do it weekly and not bi-weekly on our meetings. So I'm
there
really
you go.
excited.
Okay, awesome. Looking forward to seeing how that progresses. Isaac?
Yeah, all the bookkeeping advice and keeping overhead under 30%. And I'm also going to work through 5 levels with my lead. That sounds like a good idea.
Mhm.
We'll be in
And the
competition,
motivation myth.
Isaac.
What's that?
We'll be in competition and see who gets
Okay.
it done.
Sounds good.
Hey, yes, sir.
Accountability, maybe that's the right word.
Yeah.
Nice. All
Yeah.
right, Sonia.
All right, the whole list of what we all do. So the phone calls, but first, before the phone calls, I should probably look at the phone calls, but 5 levels of leadership, the myth one, the motivation myth, and then
Mhm.
looking at the employee model.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool. Okay, awesome. Hope you feel better.
thank you.
All right, Bryce, close us out with your takeaways, sir.
We need to really dial in our 3 Ps, and we need to dial in our pre-qualifying process for sure.
Right on. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Bryce. Thank you all. I appreciate you guys. I want to continue to encourage you to do exactly what it says behind Daryl's head, back in the corner. Dream big, hustle smarter. You've got this. Have a great
You
day.
guys.
Bye.